Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Piglet here once again and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom / Game Boy Advance by the forms of Super Mario Advance series. Mainly by the forms of Super Mario Advance 2, but I digress. So, last time we actually did manage to completely done with the first half of the forms of Valley of Bowser. And today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the grand finale of this game's Let's Play. Because of that, we're about to be going through just only the last 3 levels, excluding 4 if you want to include that specific right side of the actual Bowser's Castle itself. But even then, before we get into this, however, though, I really do apologize by the forms of, once again, by the forms of the actual uploading schedules recently, including yesterday's video, because, actually, I'll get into more details onto that, because, first of all, we're about to get started by the forms of the first level for this video, and that will have to be Valley Fortress, the final fortress level in the entire game. Plus, I believe, as far as I'm aware by the forms of Valley Fortress, this might actually be one of the most difficult fortress levels / one of the shortest fortress levels throughout. So because of that, well, we'll get to more details as soon as we're able to actually proceed to this stage. So, yeah, I really do miss by this game, because either way though, after this, then we're pretty much done with the majority of the 2D Mario installments. Well, there's only one coming up by the forms of about during next month, by the forms of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. But either way though, we'll discuss more on that in a later time. But either way, yeah, for the most part, today was actually forms of the 9th of December 2018, and as a matter of fact, that in the forms of the previous video of the forms of Super Mario World, I accidentally did say in the forms of the yesterday's video, because of I did manage to able to upload this around the same time as when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has been released for the Nintendo Switch. But unfortunately though, because I went out throughout the actual special Christmas dinner or something with my majority of my friends, even though it's a little bit too early to able to do that anyway. But anyway, yeah, look at that, how short that level was. But anyways, as you can tell, the boss in the forms of Valley Fortress is gonna be the Resnors for the final time, and eventually you'll see these guys again up until when it gets to the point until, you know, New Super Mario Bros. 2 is around. Well, it already did happen in the forms of in 2012, because we're still on, you know, in 2018 at this rate. Well, not long now until when the forms of the new year now, but I digress. So once you've completed that level, then this will actually access you to the forms of the back door of the forms of Bowser's Castle itself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves for this just yet, because now we're going to be moving on to the final castle level. Well, not so much for the final castle just yet, because, well, obviously we've got Bowser's Castle coming up. But anyways, this is the forms of castle number 7 in the forms of Larry's Castle. So this might actually be the last Koopaling that we can able to deal with before we take on Bowser himself. So I found this kind of surprising. There was no Toads around in this game, because either way, I'm pretty sure these Toads were still stuck around if the forms of you know, the Mushroom Kingdom itself, so that I digress, but either way, that's as far as I can usually major for this, consider this fact. One thing about this level though, is the fact that much like in the forms of how it does it in Roy Castle, basically we have to once again need to deal with by the forms of the snake blocks once again, but this time around though, it's getting a little bit more longer / trickier if you will, just because of these little rotating spike ball chains. Because of that though, we need to avoid those things at all costs, and even then, and especially I don't I especially refuse to able to lose my Cape Feather power up, especially because if I manage to get hit by that specific object or anything, basically I would probably suggest by the fact that I could, although you can't really pulse and just exit out the whole entire thing, because you have to purposely try to deal with, like, you know. So anyways though, in this room after this particular snake block, we have ourselves the returning enemy by the forms of the Kamek, or in this case Magic Koopa if you will. That this might be the only the second time that we actually decide to able to actually just manage to encounter Kamek, or Magic Koopa if you will. And because of that though, he only made an appearance for about only 2 levels as far as I'm aware. And because of that though, as long as you can able to actually dodge as well as you used to be, but then, you know, you get the idea. So, I don't think that level doesn't contain checkpoints though, so you have to like do this with 1 run. So, here we go folks, this is the forms of the final Koopaling battle, and that's the forms of Larry Koopa. Oh, no. Oh, come on. No! Don't fade away! Oh, shoot. Oh, that's really underwhelming. That's a pretty unfair if you ever think about it, because I swear I really need that power-up so badly. Anyways, let's see this little final cinematic right here. Oh, I did not notice Mario was that strong. Mario has defeated Larry Koopa in Castle number 7. All that is left is Bowser's castle where Princess Toadstool is being held. Can Mario rescue her and restore peace to Dinosaur Land? Spoiler alert, he would be. And I did not even notice that, you know, how Mario can able to actually chuck that particular tower. Was it like become like a god of mountains or something like that? Or maybe it's because of how the fact that he practiced the actual muscly workouts like Hercules does. But I digress. So, before we take on to the forms of the true final level in the game, first of all, I need to get myself by the forms of that specific, well, we still have Yoshi with us, but, I just need to get those cape feathers so badly, in case if I, mess things up, especially noticeable when we get to the final main level of the game, but we'll, consider this much. So anyways though, let's go ahead and go backtrack for a little bit by the forms of like the top secret area, as you can see by the actual like grinding for those cape feathers. And truth be told, this was actually the final time we're going to be seeing the top secret area, because after that, well, we are assumingly we're going to be end of the game for this point. Now before we get into the forms of the true final main level of the game, I just want to point things out, I'm going to be using the save states for just a few seconds noticing, because as you can see, I'm actually on the back door of the actual final level, and what it contains, basically, it contains the ending portion of the level already from the get-go. So, if you get to the front door of the forms of Bowser's Castle, you start things over by the forms of, like, there are 8 trials of any single doors. In the back door portion at the very end of the level, as you can see, there's actually a checkpoint right there. So that's not the point I'm going to be showing you off from here. So, instead, we are about to be up for the challenge and able to take on the front door portion of the Bowser's Castle immediately. So, here we go folks, onto the true final level in Super Mario World. And once again, we're gonna have to leave Yoshi behind, because you know how the fact that he's not overly brave enough to able to tackle for those castles for quite some time at this rate. So, yeah, basically there are 4 different doors that we can actually enter into. But I'm gonna have to show you guys by the forms of which every single rooms they actually contains, because that's the reason why I'm gonna be using some save states if I manage to able to show you guys of every single room it actually contains. So door number 1 is very simple and self-explanatory, but it's also kind of difficult and quite threatening too. Because as you can tell, there's going to be filled with Plotterboos, and especially noticeable with the forms of a crushing stomp. So yeah, that's the first door done. And the second door, it might be very simple and easy. In fact, this might actually be one of the easiest rooms to deal with. Is that, once again, we need to able to hop onto that little cage. Just like in the forms of how it does it in, you know, in Ludwig von Koopa Castle, and especially noticeable with, you know, the very first, Iggy Castle, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, but the only thing you need to worry about, though, is the falling, fireball, or in this case, the actual Plotterboo itself. Door number 3 is the fact that we need to figure out the actual maze of the actual, like, checkerboard-looking, curtains, as you can see. I don't know why I said curtains, but more accurately, the checkerboard-looking, objects. Even though, as you can see right there, we actually introduced into ourselves by the forms of the new enemies introduced in the forms of the new Mario series, or in this case, the actual Mario series entirely, and that's the forms of the Mecha Koopas. You can either stomp on them, or in this case stun them, and you can able to actually grab the hold of them until you're able to actually decide to able to throw them as projectiles or any sorts. Door number 4 is basically it leads you to the forms of a little bit tricky of the actual obstacle, but basically it contains the returning of those lit spark enemies, and especially noticeable with these hotheads when we actually get into that in just a moment. But with the forms of the cave feather on the other hand though, it just makes the entire obstacle very simple and easy and done with. So, and once you're done with the first half of the forms of these Doors of Doom, we can now actually traverse through the second half of the forms of the Doors of Doom. So naturally we've got door 5, 6, 7, and 8. And just like before, I'm going to be showing you guys of the actual order of what the doors actually retains. So door number 5, this is pretty tricky and insanely difficult because, well, you need to get a good running start, but not just with a good running start, but you have to deal with that perfect timing, and then if you screw up at least just once or twice, especially with the thwomps in mind, even with these spike pillars as a result, you'll instantly die, so you have to watch out for that. Door number 6 is the fact that, well, we're going to be spending most of the time swimming underwater, so that's what it usually contains, and it also contains like some deadly obstacles, mainly by the forms of some enemies, especially noticeable with the forms of dry bones especially, and especially with spikes on the actual like some specific walls that we need to able to dodge through. And generally this might be a little bit tricky, but honestly it's not overly complicated, or especially not that too difficult either. It's just that the only thing you need to worry about though is the forms of like there's too much stuff getting your way, and especially noticeable with the final part of this particular door that we need to dodge insane amount of like spike balls and everything, so, and even spikes on ceiling every once in a while. But either way though, I don't find that much of an issue, I don't think, as long as you're able to actually keep your cape feathers alive though, even with your inventory box. Door number 7, which actually leads us to the forms of the returning Bowser statues ever since in Super Mario Bros. 3. But with the newest edition, this time around though, we have the more deadlier golden ones, because the only difference is between the silver ones and the gold ones is that the silver ones have managed to go and completely stand still, but the gold ones on the other hand though, they managed to pop all over the place, or even especially noticeable where they jump all over the place this time around. So definitely a lot more trickier than the forms of Super Mario Bros. 3 one, that's for sure. And the 8th and final room is probably the most obnoxious room it has ever consist of, and that is the forms of filled with charging chucks and everything about this place. And as a result, you might get hit a lot by these little jerk-offs, and you know I still really despise those charging chucks for the huge passion. But as soon as you're done with either those two doors, well, it doesn't matter what door you can actually enter into, it leads us to the forms of the final room, which is basically exactly the same thing as back door, except there is no midway point or even a checkpoint for that matter. So what's cool about this what's really cool about this though is the fact that it contains a disco ball, and when you activate the red question mark block, it actually managed to able to actually let the disco ball activate, which I think is kind of cool though. But anyways, here we go folks, onto the forms of the final boss in Super Mario World. And can you guess who that will be? Of course it's pretty obvious, it's none other than the King of Koopa himself, Bowser! With a 16-bit look. Well, technically you already guys know about the forms of the... Well, in the previous 2D Mario Let's Plays, especially noticeable in Super Mario All-Stars especially, that, you know... So basically, this particular final boss has 3 different phases. Phase number 1 is very simple. Basically, we need to able to toss these Mecha Koopas. You know, I've already mentioned about these Mecha Koopas before, that we need to able to stun them first, and then once you do so, grab the hold of them and toss it all the way up until eventually you might actually decide to land on Bowser's head. Now, as you can see, Bowser's actually riding on the Koopa Clown cart, or in this case, a Koopa Clown car. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting looking weapon he's got, but either way though, once you're done with the actual phase 1, and it moves on to phase number 2, and every time you move on to the next phase, Princess Toadstool / Princess Peach, she decides to help you out to able to actually give you a super mushroom, which I think is pretty helpful for the most part. And here we go with the forms of second phase, and we're actually introducing to ourselves. What the hell? What's up with the? Oh Christ! I did not expect that. I highly suggest you not do a spin jump on that though, because if you get closer to the forms of the Koopa Clown car, that any forms of for Bowser, basically you're able to knock off to the actual other side, and then basically it'll just guarantee you might as well guarantee to get hit by the forms of that. I was showing a glass-looking bowl that usually contains one of those little items that Bowser's tossed at. So yeah, this is pretty strange fundamentally. Yeah, as you can see that right there. The only way you can able to avoid that is the fact that you have to make yourself a good jump, or you can able to potentially try to able to spin jump on it to able to defend yourself. Anyways though, but the actual main strategy for this particular boss fight is pretty much similar when it comes to like different phases and stuff. So there goes phase number 2. And as soon as you think this boss fight was actually done, well, it turns out there was actually one more phase. So either way though, let's go ahead and dodge those fireballs, or the rain of fire, if you will. Because of that though, it does remind me of like a minigame from Mario Party 5 to me. But anyways though, so here's the third and final phase. Basically, Bowser, in addition with his Koopa Clown car, is actually gone pretty mad right now, and as a result, still same strategy as before, but except it gets a little bit more tricky and difficult just because of how the fact that, well, if you don't pay attention to like that, because apparently the propeller underneath that can actually hurt you, which either way, I did not expect that. But anyways though, so once you deal with him for like, I'm assuming Bowser actually contains 6 hits, so like 2 for each phase, and as soon as you deal with the 6th and the final blow with Bowser, then Princess Toadstool and Princess Peach, if you will, is actually being released, and Bowser's defeated yet again. Mario's adventure is over. Mario, the princess, Yoshi, and his friends are going to take a vacation. Yeah, before when it gets to like 2002, then Mario and Princess Peach will surely go to the vacation once again, but in the forms of a different location and stuff, which is the forms of Isle Delfino and stuff. But either way, let's see the actual fireworks display, and here's the last firework. Huzzah. Heart-shaped firework. And that's the ending of the forms of Super Mario World, and let's get into my final thoughts of the forms of Super Mario World. Easily, without a doubt, one of the best 2D Mario experiences ever made, even by the forms of today's age, even by the forms of how the fact that, well, this game is almost going to be 30 years old when it gets to like 2020 in Japan and 2021 in the forms of in North America. So as far as almost 30 years old, does this game still really holds up? Definitely yes. Especially noticeable if you really want to get this game every nowadays. You can either get this on the Wii U eShop version, or especially noticeable if you own the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, or even especially noticeable with the new Nintendo 3DS, and even especially noticeable with the Game Boy Advance version of the game by the forms of Super Mario Advance 2. But no longer you're gonna have to purchase this on the actual Nintendo Wii now, just because of the Wii Shop channel is gonna be closing service at this rate. But even then, let's get into my final thoughts of the game. Easily without doubt the best 2D Mario experiences I've ever played. Especially noticeable how the story is very simple, even though it's a little bit similar to how it does it in Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels, and especially noticeable with Super Mario Bros. 3 because, you know, Princess Peach / Princess Toadstool hit that, you know, she's still kidnapped by Bowser, but except in a original idea that how the fact that it's gonna take place in a different environments this time by the forms of Dinosaur Land. And as a matter of fact, actually I'll get into more details onto my continuation of my final thoughts of the game already. But anyways, let's see the actual other scene where basically 4 of those Yoshis are celebrating that we actually got their Yoshi friends back. Naturally, there are only 7 of them, and then surprise surprise, they've managed to come across into their baby versions of themselves. So, and a thank you screen. So yeah, and after that though, much like any forms of how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2, and especially with Kirby's Dream Land 3, they shows us the enemy montages to see how their names were, and especially including boss fights as well, most notably Koopalings, and especially with Bowser himself, even Resnors as a result for that too. So let's get into the continuation of my final thoughts of the game. I already explained about the story, which is sure is pretty simple and self-explanatory, and the gameplay is remarkable and very awesome at the same time. The visuals are one of the best looking Super Nintendo games bar none, and especially noticeable because it's on a 16-bit console back in the day, so it makes everything about this game super awesome to look at. The music is one of the best looking soundtracks I've ever heard in a Mario game ever since then, and it's pretty entertaining one as well. Excuse me. And then finally, the controls are super tight as ever. In either way though, that's how it should be done in the rest of the actual, like, well, it's nothing that mind of its own thing, but it's just that, well, it's just for my, forget what I just said. But either way though, overall, you should definitely recommend this game. Even then, the only way you can get the game now, as I said this before, is on the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, if you can find one, and especially noticeable with the new Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console version, and the Wii U Virtual Console eShop version, and you can actually get the original cartridge-only version of Super Mario World. Heck, there's actually a double bundle with the Super Nintendo cartridge by the forms of Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World all in one cartridge, which I'm sure many people already done that, especially on the emulator and stuff like that too. But either way though, I'm presuming that we've actually done with every single 2D Mario games at this rate. Well, one coming up at some point in next year, that will have to be New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. So either way though, can't wait to able to actually do that Let's Play if we can do. But anyways, there's the end screen. And just like in any other old school video games these days, if you press any buttons, excluding the start button, I don't think there's any way we can actually just get back to the title screen nonetheless, unless if you reset the game. So, you know, kind of like how we did in Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Paper Mario, Super Mario RPG, and, you know, any other Super Nintendo titles every once in a while. So, I digress. Thank you so much guys for watching of our redo Let's Play of Super Mario World. I hope you do appreciate if I go back to this game again. And thankfully with better quality and better commentary especially. And overall, it's just a very great version of the Let's Play itself. So this is me, Piglet, and then join us next time by the forms of a 2D Mario retrospective. As I said this before, we are starting to be doing our Let's Play of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. I know we've already done New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U before, but this time we're going on to the actual Nintendo Switch system, so I just want to point things out. So anyways, see you guys then. Bye.